And we're live. So I haven't been posting lately, partly because I think that my talents are better used elsewhere. I mean, there's nothing wrong with speaking about theology. In fact, I did have the permission of my spiritual father to make this channel and to speak on these things. But the more that I realize my gifts and my interests, they're not in the realm of apologetics, and they're not in the realm of um let's say theoretical politics. What I'm interested in is the flourishing of orthodoxy, honestly, and the flourishing of our personal relationships, the manifesting of the kingdom of God on earth. We're supposed to love one another, and I think a lot of people, even within orthodoxy, have very widely different ideas of this. I was hearing Father Josiah Trenum speak about an issue that is very dear to my heart, which is what happened during COVID and the surge of new converts. Now, I think that generally speaking, the new converts, they lean very right wing, which is, I would say, a good thing in terms of the way that orthodoxy itself should be aiming to recover its lost heritage, because we have to understand that communism was a very big blight that almost destroyed orthodoxy. Of course, God promised that the gates of hell shall not prevail, right? So we hold on to that promise. We believe that it is true, that it at its core it's true, and it will be true forever and ever, because it's tied to our eschatological view. uh, the world is going to pass away, and the church is all that will remain, let's say, in the eschaton, uh, in the realized resurrection. Sure, we will all participate in the universal resurrection, but heaven, like paradise, will look very different for those who are saved versus those who are not. Now, what I wanted to say was regarding the topic that Father Josiah Trenum raised about, let's say, there being lots of new converts, and uh, the fact that the tradition itself was almost lost. Like Peugeot reminds us sometimes, like iconography was almost lost. The Soviet yoke on the East was so strong that it almost destroyed the lived-in tradition, in the sense of, like, if you kill the person, if you kill enough people, you might almost extinguish a tradition, right? In the case of orthodoxy, we were spared because God made that promise, right? Because some remain faithful and were able to pass on the tradition. But as Orthodox, we are still in a place of trying to recover part of our lost legacy. So the very idealistic, naive view that recent converts have regarding the church and tradition needs to be challenged gently for them to understand what they're getting into in a realistic manner, right? So there is an aspect of the tradition that is full, in the sense that the tradition was not lost, that the tradition was always complete from the beginning, that we are, let's say, receiving uh, what Christ gave to the church, which was whole and complete unto itself. But at the same time, we're not saints. So, given the fact that we are not saints, and that we ourselves are struggling towards Christ, that just because we are Orthodox doesn't mean that we're already, let's say, a finished Christian, right? Uh, we need to come to terms with the fact that the way that we relate to the current world is less than ideal, and we cannot spurg and, like, try to retreat to, let's say, monastic writings, because that is not genuine. I apologize for the way I'm dressed. This I was, like, dressed like this at home. I was chilling by myself on a very hot day, and I had a very unpleasant interaction with a neck beard on the internet, who claims to be Orthodox, and he was like purity spiraling about something I said about women, which was basically echoing the words of Father Moses McPherson, who made a video, who who made a video who made a video which was ultimately taken down because of all the negative comments it received. And sure enough, it seemed a little bit improper at the time, but what he was saying came from a place of love, and I think was accurate in terms of like the description, what the description of how we're supposed to think about these things. So, why do I bring this neck bearding question? I will delve into it a little bit more later, but what I see is a lot of sexual frustration on the part of a lot of young men who feel like they deserve like a trad wife or this or that, or that they should somehow marry whoever they can find who will marry them, because that's like the commandment that God gave, and that's not accurate. Like even if you take the idea that there's only two paths, monasticism and married life, that's actually not the way that the faith is practiced. A lot of people don't get married, right? And like they're not going to be doomed to hell for that. uh, Even people who are married, they sometimes they don't reproduce, right? They don't bring forth fruit in that manner. Like Saint John of Kronstadt, he had a like a white marriage. He didn't consummate the marriage. So the idea that we can just like read the scriptures and create a system out of the scriptures, that is a very Protestant mindset that I think we should definitely challenge. It's not orthodox, and it comes from a place of deep insecurity in regards to, let's say, the proper place of man within a community. The reality is most parishes are not approaching the level of what a community should be, and we have to be mindful that a few years ago during COVID-19, um, like a lot of parishes closed. A lot of parishes were closed, probably half of them. And what does it say about the faith of those who were running those parishes? And have in mind the fact that bishops are taken from the ranks of monastics. So this, let's say, LARPing and idealization of monasticism and of monks as this ethereal beings who, because they, let's say, for they have let's say renounced the world, that they are somehow in a higher space spiritually than us, that needs to come crumbling down. It's not very helpful. And in terms of, let's say, the culture of the church, I see these, let's say, new converts as a way to rectify that situation. In what sense? I think that the new converts offer an opportunity because they are, let's say, right wing themselves, and they have, let's say, sometimes chiastic views, but very strongly uh, very strongly articulated ideas about honesty, about truth, about like a seal to know the truth, and not lie about the tradition. So in that sense, I would say that they are the right people to turn the tide of this very very deep chasm that has been growing within the within the body of the church, which is modernists and traditionalists who don't see eye to eye, and who are very, very, very um, entitled, let's say, to their own views. They think that they themselves are the sole arbiters of truth. And while I might find myself within the camp of the traditionalists, with people like Father Peter Heers and such, I do think that we have to be practical about the way we engage these things. These new converts, they need to choose the parishes they want to be in, because otherwise, I don't see how our faith will be lived out genuinely. If we do not let's say, reckon what happened during the pandemic, if we don't acknowledge the fact that a lot of people who claim to be part of the church didn't have the, let's say, the strong conviction that the Eucharist was important, that the Eucharist could not be contaminated, that we as Christians, we should put worship above everything else. If you don't have, let's say, that perspective, then you're not Orthodox. And what are we, and what are we playing at? Uh, it's just, and it's always related to ecumenism and those kinds of like lefty ideas, universalism, ecumenism, uh, which end up like diluting the faith, which undermine the sacraments, which uh, try to, let's say, blur the boundaries of the church. I see the new converts as potential in the sense that they could be the ones to help usher in at the golden age of Orthodoxy that some saints promise us. However, I do see a lot of purity spiraling. I do see a lot of pride, zeal without knowledge. I see monastic LARPing. I see uh, a lot of sin, honestly, a lot of sin. And on my end, I think it makes Orthodoxy look bad. And I mean, I am as guilty as anyone of doing that. But the problem is, uh, people are hiding on the internet, pretending to be Orthodox. They have the Orthodox cross and this and that and whatever. But in reality, they haven't built themselves up, right? We have like young men who have done nothing with their lives. They have built nothing. The only thing that they can claim is that they found the true church, uh, when there was resistance, right? So basically, they Googled stuff, they read, okay, which is it is commendable. I mean, it takes a lot of effort, right, and humility and intellectual, let's say, stamina. But at the same time, it's like that's not nearly enough. On the other hand, I see a lot of women who pretend to be traditionalists and they're not. So, echoing what Father Moses McPherson was trying to communicate on his infamous video, which he called the hot holy matrix, or something like that. I'm going to lay down what I see as very important things, that we should take into account. Men, you need to make money. If you want to be a married man, you need to make money. Okay, it's non-negotiable. Number two, you need to grow in the faith and you have to become a man of your word whose honor is known, whose reputation precedes them. Let's say, I'm not telling you to be famous or whatever. There's a lot of, let's say, Orthodox grifters trying to become famous, to have their own YouTube channels and this and that. That's not my goal, honestly, with this YouTube channel. My goal is honestly to push forward certain ideas into the mainstream consciousness so that we understand ourselves better. Because I truly do believe that the mistakes we're making are of course of a spiritual nature, but also of an intellectual nature. We're relying too much on the wisdom of the world, and what we need is to recover the wisdom of the Holy Fathers, articulated in a manner that we modern people could hear as well. So, having said that, going back to the dating topic, I wanted to stress that the women who are LARPing estrades, they're mostly, let's say, on their own. Their families are not strong. There are very few, let's say, whole, intact families. I'm talking about nuclear families, not even extended families. There has been such a deep, breakdown of society, including within the Orthodox sphere. There's been such an assault uh, by technology, modern forces, modern politics, that what we used to do, which is rely on the community to vet people, that is no longer possible. You have communities that have been corrupted wholesale. I'm talking about these modernist bishops. We have uh, we have a lot of, let's say, pastoral neglect. We have a lot of divorce, remarriage, mixed marriages, and honestly, a lot of apostasy, like women who come back to the church maybe for political reasons, or to find a social club, or because they are nostalgic about something that they think they lost in childhood, and are trying to recover it. The reality is, most women in the Orthodox Church are not genuine, but that is also true of men. And those men who have flocked to the Orthodox Church to find a refuge from the world in order to defeat the world by conquering it politically, I think they're very mistaken. It's not that we shouldn't pursue political victories. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not even saying that all use of force is bad, or that authority in itself is always, let's say, respectful in a classical liberal way. I'm not in favor of democracy. People know that about me, but I'm trying to explain a dynamic that I see in lots of parishes, at least the ones that have young people, and it's the following pattern: the men are boys, and the women think that they have all the time in the world. There's this one person, I don't want to name them, but like, they tried to set me up with her, uh, and she was dull, uninteresting, not very pretty. Well, maybe she was prettier when she was younger, right? But it was like all makeup, and she was very entitled, and she was over 30. And I'm sorry, like, that's a no for me. And not because I'm being too ambitious or because I think very highly of myself. It was because I didn't want to date a modern woman. I didn't want to date a woman who has, let's say, wasted away her most precious years and has nothing to show for it, because she hasn't evolved spiritually. I don't see a spiritually mature person. She has basically nothing to offer except her pride, except her pride that she was once beautiful or something like that. And this is, I don't blame these women. Actually, I blame the fact that they themselves don't have a family structure. They don't have a father. They don't have let's say, they don't have a paternal figure that has been looking out for them and vetting and deciding for them to show them the way while they're very young, which is crucial and has been a staple of every traditional society until now, because there are no longer any traditional societies, because the social fabric itself has collapsed. So we're basically stuck with the problems of modernity and individualism, even if we're trying not to be individualists, which is such a shame given the fact that we are called to live in community as Christians. We're supposed to support one another. Um, we're supposed to correct each other as well. We're supposed to do all sorts of things that now have become impossible because everybody is out for themselves, and everybody thinks that they can correct everybody else, and that there are no consequences, and there are no men, because most priests have completely capitulated to the world, thinking that that's the way they would attract more people to their parishes. So it's in that sense that I say to young men, build something, but make sure that you're tithing to a based parish. I'm sorry, I have to be blunt. Tithe to a base parish. Don't look for the prettiest girl. Um, don't look for the trad girl. It's okay if she has a degree, uh, but make yourself into a man who can provide, and uh, and be, let's say, mindful with the communities that you're participating in. It's not optional. It's not optional. If you're thinking that you can like just come into the church and offload this to other people, no, 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 no. You're meant to be part of the community. You're meant to build the community. You're meant to offer something. If all you have to offer is your insight, your opinions, uh, your preferences, I'm sorry, but you're worse than an entitled woman. And I don't mean to come off as proud, or maybe I'm a little bit proud, but honestly, I'm very disconcerted with the way some men think that simply because they became Orthodox, now they can simply like speak about Orthodoxy instead of living it. Um, the neckbeard that I mentioned earlier, he I didn't know how he looked. He was a moderator at some Discord, and he was basically saying that you should accept the wife that God offers you, as if like God was like saying to you, you should just like marry this girl, and it would be unequivocal, and like you would have no say in it. And I questioned that because like he was saying something along the lines of. God will humble you, giving you a 30-year-old uh, a wife. He was talking to a guy who said like, no, I'm not gonna be dating over 30. It's like he was like purity spiraling and piety signaling and this and that. And then I looked him up on the internet. Sure enough, this guy who was like saying, oh, have you ever heard monks speak like this? And honestly, I've heard monks speak worse. That's the reality. But I didn't say this. Like this dude banned me for saying respectfully I disagree. I think you need to chill, and that you're not, and that you wouldn't be saying these things to me in person, because like I don't go dressed like this in public. I don't think it's somehow bad, but as you can see, like I'm a pretty buff dude. I weigh like uh 80 kilos, and I'm very lean. Like I can bench over 100 kilograms, and I'm pretty strong. Like I'm stronger than most people. And it's not just that I'm strong, it's that beyond a certain threshold of strength, you can kill anyone. And I don't mean that like as a brag. It's actually quite dangerous, because there's a point where you're so strong that your punching power, because you can train all you want, you can gain more muscle, you can be stronger, but the brain is soft as butter. So a well-placed punch can kill somebody. Like, not even talking about knocking them out. I mean accidentally killing someone. So there comes a point where, like, at a certain weight, at a certain, like, if you're a man of a certain weight, a certain fitness level, etc., that you're dangerous to whoever, right? So you start to treat certain interactions in a way that is respectful of the other person, but which makes them know that you're not someone to be trifled with, because you're setting boundaries, right? Which they should not be transgressed, or there will be consequences. You don't need to say that. You don't need to go threatening other people. Just your simple demeanor, your simple poise will basically betray your feelings, betray the fact that, look, I'm going in this direction. Either you're going to be a friend to me, or you're going to be a foe, right? And in that sense, it's like people who take for themselves these, let's say, powers, these moralistic piety signaling, virtue signaling, um, let's say, attempts at gaining status, or relevance, or feeling better, or even if or correcting others. they should be better examples mostly in general. And I don't say this to go against this guy who I won't name, but like this guy was talking about monks. Dude, what I looked him up, he was so overweight, he was basically a neckbeard. He was basically a neckbeard. And I was thinking to myself, bro, you're speaking about what monastics would say. I couldn't hear them because you ate them all. Like me personally, I don't trust fat priests and I don't trust fat monks. Okay, I don't trust them. You can say, oh well, you're discriminating on this and that, and I'm like, no, bro, I'm looking at the fruits. And you don't need to be a bodybuilder. Okay, you don't need to be a bodybuilder. But honestly, some men need to look at themselves in the mirror honestly and realize that they might not find what they want. God might not give them what they want. Perhaps they want more than they can get. And this is true also for women, right? It goes both ways. This narcissism, this pride, this entitlement, this perfectionism, we only became more literate with the internet. We only became more able to discern. We only became more demanding, but it hasn't given us virtue. We haven't developed the virtue to be able to look at ourselves, look where we're at, and discerning our direction. We want to grab for the shiny thing. We look for beauty as if it was the most important thing. I can tell you, I'm 31 now. I'm as sensitive to beauty as any, perhaps even more. I have my own struggles, but I'll tell you, when you're 30 and over 30, beauty does not cut it. Beauty does not cut it because you crave peace. You crave other things. You crave a person who will be a good companion. And she doesn't need to be more than attractive. She doesn't need to be more than a seven. And the fact that people took umbrage, is that the right word? That people took offense with what Father Moses was saying. By the way, I disagree on some things with Father Moses, or rather, I disagree with some things he says that I think are a little bit um, too traditionally masculine, even though like they're not traditionally masculine. They're let's say I think a perversion of masculinity. I don't think that the spirit of competition is a godly spirit, right? Even though we have to compete, and it's unfortunate. But what I'm trying to say is, even though I personally didn't find his video the most tasteful of his videos, I think he should have kept it up because it spoke to something that people need to learn, which is humility. Uh, External beauty, that's nothing. You want someone who can help you achieve the kingdom of heaven. You don't like how does external beauty help you in that? Honestly, beauty is a promise of what could be, right? So if a person is beautiful, we imagine that they are also good. Yet at the same time, we know from experience that that's not always the case. So we should all take a humble pill, and we should also accept that if we're not able to take a humble pill, then we ought not to marry, and that's fine. It's not a like you're not forced to marry a person who is not fit for marriage. In fact, I think that people being alone is actually quite helpful in terms of their spiritual growth. It's a small form of monasticism. Basically, what I'm trying to say, if I had to boil it down, is kids, work on yourselves, have faith, but don't have faith in your desires. Don't have faith that God will grant you your desires in this life. That's not faith, honestly. That's magical thinking. That's actually anti-Christian. You can ask God, and seek and ye shall find. You will receive to the measure that you ask. Um, and this does not mean that if you pray more, you will receive exactly what you ask, but that you will receive exactly what you need, and that the prayer itself will be good for you. So, my suggestion is, please don't say things that you don't believe in. Uh, don't say things that you wouldn't say in person on the internet. Try to be mindful of others. Try to not be too censorious, um, because rigorism is a problem. But at the same time, try to say the truth, the truth with love. And sometimes you have to just simply tell someone that they're out of place, and that they, let's say, that they made a grave mistake. But this idea that we will build the kingdom on earth through, let's say, forcing people to conform to our views of the world, or what we should think the world should be, that is Satanism, bro. That's not Christianity. Orthodox Christianity is the way of the cross. Is to not conform to the world, even though the world was meant for something else, because you're looking for the kingdom of heaven. So if you're too attached to goals, like for example finding a wife maybe, or finding a husband, um, give it up to God. Like sincerely give it up to God, and be willing to accept failure. Because God, He doesn't have a place to lay His head on earth. The church is supposed to be that place. Yet at the same time, look at how we ourselves are. If we are not saintly ourselves, how can we expect others to be saintly? That's what I'm trying to say, honestly. So please, if you disagree with something, let me know. Uh, I am very much interested in there being an Orthodox revival, but I don't see how a bunch of incels, either male or female, are going to change this. So, goodbye. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.